Howdy folks, welcome back to another Bass 66 Chevelle video here. We're back on this 78 F150 here. And got a lot of projects going on. And this is one of them. And trying to still repair things from the fire that happened back in July. And then the other thing too is I'm trying to come up with the idea here. And this generator pretty much is just about had it on this old edsel here, and I'm gonna pull it off and I'm gonna put an alternator on this thing. And the only thing really from stopping me is I got to make sure that the alternator will line up with these pulleys correctly. And then we don't have, this is older block, so right where my finger is, there's no bolt hole for an alternator. This block is an early block and it wasn't drilled for it. But we're not going to be drilling or doing anything crazy into the block or nothing, because if we want to put this thing back original, we want to be able to do that. But I'm going to come up with the idea here. I'm going to run a GM alternator. We're going to run a GM 10SI alternator, which I have a old one over here, not the one the style I will run, but I'm not going to run this particular one for obvious reasons. It's been sitting outside. But this is what we're going to run here. It's a GM 10SI, and it's got the internal regulator on it. And I thought about running a one wire on it, but it just seems like a lot of headaches, because they were talking about the generator light won't come on and all that, and then you got to spend more money to make that generator light, indicator light, come on, which really I don't know why it really matters. But anyway, I'm going to retain that and just save money. So we're going to get this style alternator and we're going to make it work on that edsel over there. So that's going to be another project too coming up. And I want to go on and pull it off and put an alternator on it. And if I have to, I'll order another set of generator brackets, original brackets, off eBay that'll fit this car, and then we'll modify those, and then we'll keep our originals to this car. That way we're not messing them up. And then I'll just modify the ones off eBay if I have to. That way it doesn't matter. I mean, it really don't matter anyway, but you know, if I want to put this car back original, being a quote-unquote edsel here, I want to be able to put it back original. Of course, most of it is not really original anyway. That is the original motor. I'm pretty much about 90% sure on that it is definitely original. It is a 360. I know that for a fact. Now, I've done several things to it. I still got a little bit of work to do, and I admire my zip tie on here holding the accelerator here, but it works. I got to get a little bushing in there and get this hooked up correctly. Nice thing about this car is it's got the I don't know if you call it the Ford-matic, but whatever it is, 3-speed automatic is all it is basically. And nice thing about it is there's no kickdown leakage to worry about this carburetor. So I was able to run an Edelbrock on this edsel here with no issues, which makes it so much easier. And because the kickdown, all that's tied into the linkage down there. So if you open this up here, see, all that's the kickdown and all that is down here. So that's the kickdown here. So all this is connected into that. Nothing's tied to this carburetor, so that makes it nice. You don't have a bunch of issues with that. And then plus, I've tried electric choke. I don't like it. I'd rather have manual. I got to run a cable in here to get the choke hook back up here. But I gotta get our choke hooked up. But this is one I'd put a kid in, and it turned out pretty good. Still running good. I definitely, obviously, as you can see, I definitely upgraded to. It's got a HEI ignition on it, which helped it tremendously. I mean, this car needed it bad. And then I went ahead and I needed a water pump for it. Couldn't find anything anywhere for this thing. And then I painted all this forward red, because I'm not going to paint this motor back the original black like it used to be. I'm going to paint it forward red when I end up eventually overhauling it one day. I like to pull it out and re-ring it and just let it ride, but one day. But this water pump here, I couldn't find any information whatsoever on them, and the ones for the edsel that I found didn't even look right. And then with this pulley alignment and all, when I was looking at it from the bouncer to up there, nothing was lining up. So The water pump I had pulled off of it ended up coming up as a 69 Mustang water pump. So I ended up typed in a 69 Mustang water pump, and the impeller, the distance for this impeller here was the same and as the other water pump I had, because the other one was pretty much wore out, and because it's squealing like crazy and just, it's wore out. And somebody had just threw that on here. I don't know if they pulled off the truck or not, but pretty sure it come off a Mustang, but I don't know for sure. Wouldn't put my money on it. But anyway, typed in 69 Mustang, and then it popped right up. And then that way we were able to retain our pulley alignment here. So nothing changed on that. So if you need a water pump for edsel, all this stuff, I don't know why it's so hard to find, which it's really not. It's just, you got to type it in a little bit differently. But so I'm running a Edelbrock 1405 600 CFM carburetor on this 360 here. I had to, one thing I had to do is I had to get an offset air cleaner base for it, unfortunately. I do have the wing nut sitting right there. But I had to get a offset, as you can see, to run our HEI ignition, because otherwise, if you didn't, it would sit up here, and then it would, basically, this lid here would be hitting that distributor cap, which that ain't no big deal. So I had to buy a whole nother air cleaner, basically, for this thing, just to get this offset air cleaner base. And now I take that back. Now I ended up spending double the money. I bought this air cleaner as one piece, and then when I found out that, and then I went to research it, a bunch of it, and then I found out they made them offset like that for this particular reason, that I ended up spending about $50 to get one air cleaner and then get that offset air cleaner base, because this car never had the original air cleaner anyway. It had one with it, but it was so rough looking, and then plus it was so butchered up. I don't know what in the world somebody did to it. Looked like they took snips and cut a base out and then pieced together a top, we'll call it, for it, but I don't know. And it comes with this wing nut here that's basically in the shape of a Z to accommodate the offset air cleaner base. But got that carburetor for free from my buddy, so that was lucky. But don't ever buy a brand new carburetor for anything. It's so much easier. These Edelbrocks, I mean, Hollies, everybody says the Hollies are nicer because you can, they're more for performance, quote unquote, and you can adjust them more, which I believe that, and I think they are better for performance. I'm going to probably end up putting one on my white F150 eventually, which you can't really see, but it's sitting on the other side of the woods there. But I'm going to put one on that. But these are very simple to rebuild, and I was able to buy a kit for one for like $15 off eBay. I'm an eBay man. I get everything off eBay pretty much. But anyway, but that's our next project here. Is I want to get an alternator on this thing. We're going to run a GM alternator on it, and then I'm going to figure out something about this power brake booster. It's got a hole in it, and every time you hit the brakes, it goes losing vacuum. So I just did away with it. Well, with the vacuum line for now. That way it wouldn't make the motor run funny. But this motor's, I mean, it runs okay, but it's tired. It needs to be pulled out and gone through bad. But that's another issue. I got 3 issues here. I need to get an alternator on it so it's charging properly, because that generator's pretty much about had it. And plus I want an alternator anyway, because it's just so much more convenient. And plus it'll help it run a lot better with that electronic ignition there. And plus I got a radio in this car as well. We kept the original radio in it. Now this car one day is going to get it's going to get a frame off restoration. One day in the future, don't know when, but we accommodated our original radio there for one. And then we were able to, I just cut a hole in the back of the glove box there. And then we kept our, upgraded it to a modern radio. It's got Bluetooth and CD player and radio, of course. And then we wired in, retrofitted our speakers there. We got the one on the front were the original ones because they were junk. And then we got the one back there. That one needs a cover for the back of it to cover it up. But we retrofitted in those with their original holes. And everything on this car I'm doing in such a way so that, if you ever wanted to put back original, you could do it with no problem. But anyway, of course we got our Cooper tires here. Eventually I'm gonna pull these off and I'm gonna put them on my Chevelle, and I'm gonna put the wide white walls back on it eventually. But it takes time. I just put them on there because the ones that were on it were so dry rotted, and you know, I wouldn't even want to drive it down the road. But I don't like driving this car too much because it needs alignment really bad, and the suspension on this car is just worn slam out. I mean, it's a 60-year-old car, you know, it needs total restoration, but I mean, I still drive it, but it's just trying to get it straightened out, more reliable and all. But so we got to get this generator. We're going to put an alternator on it here. We're going to do that soon. And then we're going to take this brake booster here, because somebody threw this on here. This is definitely not original. They went the right direction with putting a dual master cylinder on this car, which is so much better and safer. So if we ever lose front brakes or back brakes, we can still get stopped. So they went the right direction on putting a dual master cylinder, but the way they had it plumbed, they had the two lines coming off and then tied into a Y down into the single line that used to be on here. And I went in there and I took all that junk out and separated them, so we got one for our front and one for our back. That way it's done correctly. And then I looked this master cylinder up and I typed in it seemed like a 69 Mustang, and kept coming up. And when I found some interesting information. Now I'm not 100% sure on this, but it seems like in 1967 there was a federal mandate that all cars, I'm not sure about trucks, but I know most small trucks, not sure about the big stuff then, like dump trucks or anything like that, but I know car-wise, in 1967, it was a federal mandate that they had to go to a dual master cylinder, which is, I don't know why they didn't do it anyway, but so much safer. It seems like everything you pull up, a 67 Chevelle, they had a dual master cylinder. And then, you know, a 67 Camaro, they went to a dual. Well, that was the first year anyway. But seems like 67 is the magical year. But so they went the right direction on that. And then it seems like a 69 Mustang drum brake master cylinder will work on this thing. So we're going to get a, I don't know if they had old Mustang sitting around or not. They yanked the water pump off and brake booster master cylinder off of it, I don't know. So I separated them out. This one goes to the front on the driver's side and the passenger side. I split it all to the front, and then this one back here goes to the rear brakes that just goes all the way back. And then it's really easy to do. I just pull the distribution block out, and the one that goes for the rear, just tied in that line to the rear brakes, just tied it in, put a union in there, and then run it straight back to the back of this master cylinder. And then the other one, I just took and put in a T-fitting and tied the passenger side and the front together, and then run this line to the other side of the T. So it's really easy to do. I just eliminate that distribution block. I know it's something else that, you know, if you want to put it back original, which I really wouldn't want to do it, not with a single master cylinder. To me, it's so much safer with a dual that you can do that. So we got to find a brake booster here that is smaller in diameter, because they look like they took a hammer or something, and I don't really like that. They dented the valve cover in so they would clear this brake master cylinder, which I don't like it, because I'm sitting there thinking the rocker arms are hitting this valve cover over time, and I don't like it. That's the same, these valve covers, I don't think they're original, but because they're blue, but they were nice ones. They're definitely older because they don't have none of the PCV hookups. But it could be fixed, and I can get that dent back out of it. And I thought about just taking the booster out, just deleting it all together, and then just taking this master cylinder here and just bolting it directly to the firewall. So I haven't decided yet, but they do make one that's a little bit smaller, because if we can get one in there it's a little smaller, that'll give us our clearance we need for right there. That'll be good. So that's another issue. We need to put an alternator on it. We need to get a smaller brake booster, because I do like the power brakes. Now that is nice. That does help. But we'll see if we can find a better brake booster and get an alternator for it. And then we got to get this issue with the power steering fixed, because the lines, the return line and the pressure line are dry rotted, which that's not really so much the problem. The return line is, you know, easily replaced. The pressure line, they still repop. and that's not really a big deal. But the big deal of all, I'm not sure if I made videos on it, I think I did, is this cylinder down here is leaking like crazy. But the cylinder that's attached down here is leaking like crazy, and I'm gonna have to, I cannot find it anywhere for it. I've looked and looked and looked and cannot find one. They make a rebuild kit for it, but something like that, I mean, I could try it, but I'd rather just put a new one on it if I can. But that's the next thing, is I'd like to replace that cylinder underneath. And it'd be nice if you could just take this steering box, because all it is this steering box is just a regular old manual steering box, and they power assisted. That's all it is. But it'd be nice if I could get a power steering box for it, a true one, and then if I could run like a regular Saginaw GM power steering pump on here, then I could run my lines off of it and run a regular power steering box there. That way I could just eliminate that cylinder and all that. But that's another issue. So we need to get a smaller booster, and we need to get this power steering issue, get that cylinder down there, get that fixed, and then we need to put an alternator on it. Which is the main thing right now I'm concentrating on, is getting the alternator back on it, so I can get it charging like it's supposed to. But anyway, that's where we're at on our edsel here. And then this truck here is going to get, in one way, I mean, it's nice in one way because it'll run a whole lot better, but another way, it's kind of a shame. But all that money and time I spent on it. But the fire, if you look back in the videos here, the fire unfortunately did a lot of damage to this thing. Now, it didn't hurt it running wise. It did not hurt the motor, didn't hurt any of that. And you know, it wasn't burning very long, but it did destroy all the hoses and a lot of the wiring, as you can tell, because it damaged the wiring up there. So we're going to end up, I'm pretty sure that all that heat screwed up this carburetor here, because I've done tried everything. I cannot get it to idle down. I put vacuum caps on it. You know, I replaced all the vacuum lines, made sure we did not have no vacuum leaks whatsoever, which we don't. And so I'm not sure if it melted something inside of it or warped it or what, but it just will not idle down whatsoever. And I've done tried everything, and you put it in drive, the back tires there, it jerks when you put it in drive or you put it in reverse. Of course, that is the reason why it will not idle down. So rather than fight with it and do all that, I've even unhooked the brake booster there and plugged it off just to see if the idle would change any, to make sure that booster didn't have a hole in it, because that's what happened to that car, because it had a little pinhole in it. But that one you could hear, because every time I hit the brakes it goes ch ch, makes that little sound. But it didn't change any on this. But this thing will not idle down. It idles too high. It's like 1200, maybe not that high, but anywhere from 1000 to 1200 RPM, and it's too high. It won't idle down right. So we're going to take in we're going to go in a little different direction. I'm going to end up taking this in the different direction that I was going to take my 89 F150, because I'm taking that on a different path too. And basically what I'm doing is pretty much the same thing I did to my edsel. Is we're doing away with this distributor here. We're going to put an HEI distributor in it. I've already got that all ordered for it, which that will come here soon. So we're going to run an HEI distributor, because I'm not sure if that fire damaged something inside this distributor, which is part of the reason why I won't idle down. And this distributor is brand new. Everything on this thing was brand new except for the short block. I mean, the heads, I just cleaned everything up and just put new valve stem seals in them and just checked them. And everything was good on them, but it just it won't idle down. So we're going to pull this distributor out. I'm not sure if the heat got it or not. I mean, of course, a lot of where the rust is it may have destroyed this diaphragm in here, something simple like that. But it did milk the wire a little bit. But it still runs. It still runs. It did not hurt the motor. The motor does not overheat or anything like that. It didn't hurt anything in that. But it still needs to be pulled out and overhauled. Not because of the fire, but because it's just plain worn out. And it had a blowed head gasket. And, kind of hate to see the rod bearings and main bearings. I'm sure they're wiped out, and now the time would be to pull it out and catch it before it spins one, before it ruins it, because I kind of like to save this motor as much time as I put in it. But it does not have a bladed head gasket no more, thank God. But we're going to do away with that distributor there. We're going to do away with this carburetor because it's screwed up, and I just don't feel like spending the money to buy another one and fighting it and all that. And plus the choke, I messed with the choke a little bit. I've tried to take these 3 screws loose here, and I tried to twist them either way, trying to mess with that. And I'm pretty sure this is electric choke too, because I did not run a hot wire to it. But even then, it shouldn't matter, because even then I took my finger up here and opened it all the way up and tried it in, you know, numerous positions there, and you know, it still would not idle down. It would not idle down right. You know, it's running like anywhere, like I said, from 1,000 to 1,200 RPM. It's just idling too fast, and that's with the motor completely warmed up. And it chokes itself out. If you mess with the choke a little bit, you know, it's like the choke is screwed up. And then our accelerator pump seems like it's working correctly, because I did not find anything wrong with that necessarily. But I'll even show y'all that we open our choke up here. We look down in here. Yeah, it's squirting. So the accelerator pump is definitely good, but I'm not sure if it warped something in it or what. But we're going to get rid of it. We're going to delete this distributor. We're going to run a HEI style distributor. That way we just run a hot to it. We're going to get rid of this ignition coil here. We're going to do away with this carburetor. We're going to do away with these valve covers, because the issue with them is this one over here, that hole was too small, so you can't run a breather in it because the grommet will not fit, and I don't want to be drilling it out and cutting a bigger hole to make that work. So I bought new valve covers for it so we can get the PCV hooked up correctly, which is something else I don't like about it, because it has no PCV on it right now, and it needs to have that hooked back up. So we're going to do away with the valve covers, the distributor, the ignition coil, because we're going to HEI. That way we can run it straight hot to it, straight 12 volts. Ain't going to worry about it no more. And plus the other issue is I don't like, has nothing to do with the fire, but the way you can turn this distributor cap, that adapter, and this top, because all that was replaced. I replaced all that. Of course, don't look like it now, but I just don't like that. I mean, that's, you know, just how much slop that thing has. I do not like that, and I know that's definitely screwing with the timing, I'm sure. But I'm sure the timing chain, this thing is worn slam out. But anyway, that's, you know, it's just another reason why I'm going to put the HEI in it, because it's just, I don't like the way that's designed. It's just a poor design. And I was trying to keep this thing all original. I wanted to keep this truck quote unquote original, but you know, it just seems like it's not going to work out that way, and we're just going to have to do some upgrades on it, unfortunately. And then we're going to end up, we're going to remove this carburetor. This intake is going to be gone too. We're going to get rid of this intake. Now I'm going to keep all this stuff, and then eventually I'll probably get a kit and take a look at this carburetor here and figure out what's really wrong with it. That way, same way with my edsel, if I want to put it all back, I can put it all back. But we're going to take and we're just going to go on and upgrade it to a Edelbrock carburetor, and we're going to put a 4-barrel on it. So we're just going to go ahead and pull this 2-barrel off, put a 4-barrel on it, which kind of disappointing in one way, because kind of losing the thing of being original. That's not the original carburetor, but it was originally a 2-barrel. I still have it. But you know, I was trying to experiment, quote unquote, to see if this thing would be any different on gas, a 2-barrel versus a 4-barrel. But I mean, I ain't really drove it enough to really tell, but I think it's going to be pretty much the same. It's, you know, 10 miles to a gallon, which I don't care. You know, this is not for fuel mileage. I'd quit worrying about that quite a few years ago, because this old stuff, you know, it's not good on gas. It's not. Everything I got oil-wise is 10 miles to a gallon, just about. And that's, it don't matter where you're driving uphill, driving downhill, you know, it's 10. But if anybody else tells you, you know, otherwise you're getting better, if they ain't got overdrive or something, they full of it. Ain't no way they're getting 20 miles to a gallon with a 350 and a turbo 350 transmission or something like that, or a 302 and a C4. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. But anyway, we're going to upgrade some stuff. We're going to pretty much, we're going to put a new, replace the intake. We're going to put a 4-barrel aluminum intake on it. We're going to put a Edelbrock 4-barrel carburetor on it, which I got a kit for it. And I thought I had one, but I ended up, I'd forgotten that my buddy had given it to me. But I used it on that car on my edsel there. So I'm going to have to come up and buy another one. Now, I'm not buying a brand new one. I'm going to look on eBay and I'm going to find a manual choke, at least a 600 CFM, and put on here. And that way we'll have a good carburetor, we'll have a good intake, we'll have our valve covers, and that'll get rid of our PCV issue here, and that'll make it a lot nicer. And then I had to buy, the only problem is I'll have to, when I'm running the Edelbrock, I'm going to have to get that adapter piece to run our kick down here for our forward kick down, which they do make that. But, so I'll see if I can find one that's already got it on eBay or something, but we'll figure that out. And then hopefully that'll get rid of a lot of issues here. And then we're just going to run all new wires to it. We'll retain our temperature center unit wire there, which that still works perfectly fine. And then we'll retain our oil pressure warning light for that. And then we're going to splice into this thing because it's burn up anyway. It does not matter at this point. But we'll get the same gauge wires and get like a 10 gauge wire to run to our HEI. And then we're going to do away with this box. This spring box is going to go too, so we'll completely delete this, take this out, and we'll take out and remove all these wires that go to this because we won't need it no more. So we'll get rid of that, and this will definitely help it run a whole lot better. And then we're going to end up all the wiring that goes to this voltage regulator and this alternator here. It seems like it's working fine, but we're going to probably end up doing away with this 2G. Seems like Ford calls it the Ford 2G alternator. I'm going to double check, make sure it's charging, but we're going to end up deleting this too, and probably end up running a GM alternator on it. Just, you know, just for reliability. Just makes it so much more convenient. But if it's charging right now, I'm not going to screw with it, of course, but that's seems like what we're going to do next here. But I'm going to actually end up ordering a new cam for this thing, and I'm going to put everything stock in it. I'm going to get a stock cam, just a bone stock cam, stock lifters, and then seems like Vintage Iron always recommends the Delphi lifters there are supposed to be better, supposedly, because they said even he had a motor one time that even after he put the zinc and all in it, that it still went flat. But he said as long as you get the Delphi lifters or whatever, because there's only really like 2 manufacturers out there that make lifters, you should be fine. But I think comp cams, they made by the same manufacturer too, something like that. But I don't know. But I'm going to put a bone stock cam in this thing and get the stock lifters, and I'm going to get a stock timing set for it because I know this thing's got a pile of slop in it. And we'll throw a new cam and everything in it, and we'll have a new carburetor and intake. I mean, and almost we'll have no choice but to run better. And then I'll see if I can raise this motor up, and we'll drop the oil pan on it. We'll throw an oil pump on it and clean all the garbage out of the oil pan, and hopefully, hopefully the bearings ain't wiped out in it, and hopefully it'll get a little bit more life out of it, because I plan on driving this thing. I got the license plates on the way for it, but I'm trying to squeeze out a little bit more life out of this thing if I can. But eventually, you know, I'm gonna find a better motor for it. But I'll either find a 302 or a 351. It seems like you can't really find 351s anymore. But I'm actually leaning towards getting a 351 for my weight truck. I was gonna build that 302 for it, but I have not decided. I got a 302. I might end up throwing it in this thing. But because I know that one, you know, basically spending all that money on a motor that's probably gonna throw a rod eventually anyway, but trying to straighten it out enough to make it reliable. But it runs good and all, it's alright, but I just got to get rid of this issue with it where it'll idle down. And not sure if it melted something inside of that carburetor or warped something or what, but it's definitely won't idle down. stays idle at 1200 RPM, and it didn't do that before. So we're going to look into that. But anyway, hope y'all like my videos here, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And we did replace our heater core. Now I am going to go back. I ordered a new blower motor. That was one part I left out here. This is just to add on to the other part of this thing. These heater cores are very easy to replace. I mean, I had it out in 25 minutes. I mean, it's so simple, really is. But you got 3 nuts there. And they're all 7/16. It's one right there. Then you got 2 on your blower motor. And you unplug your blower motor and take this 5/16 down there out to take your ground straps out. And then you unhook your 2 cables. You only got 2 cables. That's it. This is a non-AC truck. You got 2 cables to take this heater box out, and just take it out. It's so much easier. You got one right here to take out for the heater cable there, and then you got another one right up in here. And you don't have to take your glove box door off or any of that crazy stuff. Just take the glove box liner out. Now I have not put mine back in because I just ordered a new one and I still got it. But once you take them 2 cables off, you can take you can get back in here and get these 2 top screws out. They're just a regular old Phillips head. You have 2 of them. There's one there and there's one over there. And then you got 3. You got one on the side and then 2 on the bottom. Because you'll have to take that cover off. And then you just lean that thing back and drop it down. You can pull the whole thing out. But so unfortunately I might pull this whole thing back out, which, you know, ain't nothing to it. It didn't take me like 25 minutes to pull it out. It's nothing to it. It's very easy, very simple. And I like the design of it. It's simple. You don't have that. The nice thing about it too is don't have all that vacuum junk for the heater control to open the doors up on like the blend door and all that. So it makes it so much simpler. So I like it. But I was having issues with my white truck. But I'm gonna replace this blower motor here. It still works, but I think the bearing's going out in it because it's squealing. And I have not found no information whatsoever on them things. And they're 2 different styles. When it boils down to it, that's all I could find. It's 2 different styles. One is for air conditioning. It mounts kind of up on the side on the heater box because they have a whole different design on the heater box. Another one is just like mine. This one right here, I could not find anywhere. And then come to find out, I ended up watching a YouTube video, and somebody, I want to thank them out there if they see this video there. They provided me with a part number, and they are so easy to get. They're not that expensive. I think I paid 25 bucks for it, and I wish I would have replaced it when I had the box out, but it is what it is. It's not that bad to pull it back out and replace it, but that's alright. But